Beep. All righty. There's the beep. Okay, so we have done one kind of factoring. We have done Gcf factoring. Notice this is number 2. So just to remind yourself, let's remember, Oh, thank goodness they bought us all these new computers that work so well. Let's remember the first one that we always try is Gcf factoring. If we need to. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, this is the second kind of factoring. Now, before we go on, I have to remind you, what is a factor? I'm going to write an equation up here with no variables, all constants. You tell me what the factors are. What are the factors? 6 and 4 are the factors, and 24 is the product. Yes? Okay. So factors are the things that are multiplying. Factors are multiplied. Now, in grade 3, when you were learning to multiply, you only learned it with numbers. But of course, those rules change, and you learn how to do that with variables. And then this year, you learned how to do it with variables and constants. So here I have factors, right? But I have no product, do I? Now, you guys can all get me the product because you just did a test or quiz on this. But I need you to do something for me. Most of you would look at that and use the little shortcut that I gave you, right? Because there's no number in front of the x. I don't want you to do that. I want you to actually write out FOIL here. So what would we do? We would get x squared plus 6x plus 4x plus 24, correct? And then we would collect our like terms, and we would get x squared plus 10x plus 24. And this gives us a trinomial. Now, trinomials have what we call a general form. And basically, trinomials all follow this. Ax squared plus or minus bx plus or minus c. And you can see that follows this, doesn't it? There's an x squared, an x, and a constant. X squared, x, constant. Does it have to be x? No, it could be y, could be m, could be a lightning bolt, doesn't matter. Okay, everybody cool? Everybody good? Okay. This first term has a name. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to use that name, but I'm never going to test you on it because it's not important until next year. Okay? So this first term, because it is squared, is what we call the quadratic term. The second one is called the linear term. And the third one is called the constant. Okay? Now, all of you already know this, but you should have recognized that if we had done the shortcut here, you would see that 6 and 4, 6 plus 4 equaled the linear term. And you should have noticed that 6 times 4 equaled the constant term. Now, we already know that little shortcut for expanding trinomials, yes? So you should be aware that if you can multiply it out using that trick, what should you be able to do to find the factors, which is going back the other way? You can use that same information to help you out. Does everybody understand what I am saying? So if you have, now this is where it gets a little crazy. If you have x squared plus bx plus c. So what's missing here? No coefficient. If you have no coefficient, you have a trinomial that looks like that, then you should, or wait, I shouldn't say should, then it's possible to factor by reversing FOIL. Is everybody with me? So I taught you FOIL, and then I gave you a shortcut to deal with it when it looked like this, right? And that gave me our product. But what if I start with the product? Then I need to go backwards to find the factors, right? So if I reverse that shortcut, then I must find the factors, yes? So the first thing I did here was I added them, and then I multiplied them, right? So going backwards, I must need to do some division and some subtraction, yes? Everybody with me? Everyone agree? So let's see what that means. What does that actually look like? So I look here and I say to myself, self, do I know how to deal with this? What do I need to have in order to deal with factoring this trinomial? Point one, I need to have no leading coefficient. Are we good? Right. So there's no coefficient. So we're happy, right? I'm going to draw me a little happy face. Woo! Yay! Okay. What else do I need to have? Do I have a linear term? Yes, I do. I've got a linear term, so I'm happy. Do I have a constant term? So I'm happy. So this is something that might work, yes? Will it necessarily work? No. Okay, so let's check. If this is going to work, I know that it's going to end up looking like this. X plus or minus something. Let's make that an M. And X plus or minus something else. Does everyone agree? If it's going to work, that's what it's going to look like, right? Okay, and we know from up here that M plus N would have to equal the linear term. What is the linear term in this trinomial? 7. So M plus N would have to equal 7. And we know that M times N would have to equal what? Look closer. Negative 18. So, can you think of two numbers that will multiply to 18 and at negative 18 and add to 7? What are they? Negative 9 and positive 2. Yes? Everyone agrees? So, I know that I'm going to be in this form, aren't I? So I'm going to have X, and you guys told me it was negative 9 and positive 2. That's going to get me to positive 7? Or is it negative 2 and positive 9? It is negative 2 and positive 9, right? It can't be 2 and minus 9, because then we would get negative 7, wouldn't we? Does everyone see how it works? Now, when I expand that, Negative 2 plus 9 is 7. Yay! Negative 2 times positive 9 is negative 18. Yay! And I've got it. Is everybody with me? Everybody understands the math behind it, yes? Is everyone cool? So I'm going to shortcut this one down. Look at that. Does that look like something that might work? Right. So let's check it. If it's going to work, there should be two numbers that multiply to negative 8 and add to what? Negative 2. Are there numbers that do that? What are they? Negative 4 and positive 2. Does everybody see that? Now listen to me. Factoring is very discouraging for some of you because some of your peers see the pair immediately. They don't have to think about it. And some people have to think a little longer about it. And those people think that they can't do factoring. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just because you don't see the pair right away doesn't mean you can't do it. Just means you need a little longer. Okay? Let me tell you a story. About 6 years ago, I had a student in the 9th grade. This used to be in grade 9. And this student was one of my favorite people in the world. But as a student, he was almost off the charts at the bottom. Do you understand what I'm saying? He was an awful student at everything, not just math. But he was a really great guy. And all year I've been teaching him Math 9 and like 7 plus 3. I don't know, Mr. Myers. I can't do math. That's the level we were dealing with. So we got to factoring and I was worried. That kid could factor this whole page in the time it will take me to tell you this story. But he could do nothing else. If I asked him what 9 times 2 was, I don't know. But if I gave him this to factor, negative 2 and 9, right away. Then you know what's weird? He would never write it out properly. Ever. But he was a wizard of factoring. So stay cool. Okay? So Mark has told us it's negative 4 and 2. Right? So x minus 4, x plus 2. Does it work? Is negative 4 plus 2 negative 2? Negative 4 plus 2 equals negative 2. Check. Is negative 4 times 2 negative 8? Negative 8, check. And we're correct. Now let's say you don't see the pair right away. Start from scratch. 1 and 8. Will they get you to 2 in any way? No. Okay, the next factor is 2 and 4. Can those combine to make 2 somehow? Yeah. So there's the pair you're going to use. Understand? Sometimes there'll be a lot of pairs. All you got to do is keep trying until you get there. Eventually, when you've practiced this enough, you'll start seeing them right away. Like that crazy kid in the 9th grade. Okay? So let's look at this next one. If it's going to work, what must I multiply to? $35. And what must I add to? Negative 12. What are they? Negative 5 and negative 7. Right? X minus 5. X minus 7. And then I check. Is negative 5 plus negative 7 negative 12? Yes. Is negative 5 times negative 7 positive 35? Yes, and I'm okay. Everybody good? Now, one of the big problems kids have is it positive and negative, positive and positive, negative and positive, or negative and negative? I don't know. Let's look. When this is negative, what did I have? Two different terms, right? When this is negative, what did I have? Two different terms. When this is positive, what did I have? The same term. Everybody with me? What if this one were positive as well? Then what would these two be? Positive. Everybody good? All right, I'm going to shut up. You guys look at D. Does D look like something we can deal with? Is it the right kind of trinomial? Now, nobody goes stupid on me and say, no, there's no x. Does that matter? No. So, if this is going to work, what does it need to do? Multiply to what? Negative 20 and add to what? 12. What is it? 10 and negative 2? No. What else is it? You want to say 10 and 2, right? Does it work? No. This is not factorable. And it is just as important to recognize when you can't factor something as when you can. Because I've given questions on tests and watch kids fill up half a page because I left a half a page blank on a question that couldn't be factored. And they try to make it work. Don't. This isn't factorable. Why? 1 and 20 can't get me to 12, can it? 2 and 10, that'll get me to 12, right? But it has to be 2 plus 2 and plus 10, doesn't it? Okay, so 10 plus 2 will equal 12, but that would also have to mean that 10 times 2 equaled negative 20, does it? No. So you cannot factor this. Is everybody cool? Okay. So now I'm really going to shut up, and I'm going to let you try E on your own without me saying a word. Remember, does it matter that it's got a Y? So if it is going to work, what must I multiply to? Negative 14. And what must I add to? What is it? Right. Negative 7 and positive 2. Is everybody good with the regular ones? Yes? All right. Look at F. What don't I like? 4x squared. What? Myers, you haven't taught us what to do when there's a number in front. No, I haven't. But have I taught you how to get rid of numbers in front? I have, because what's the first kind of factoring you're supposed to try? Gcf. So, if I wanted to get rid of that 4, I would have to divide by 4, yes? Does 4 go into everything? So I write it out as 4x squared minus 5x minus 14. Yes? Now here's what you're going to screw up. All of you, when you're doing this on your test, are going to forget that 4. Are you allowed to? No. He is still part of the answer. Don't forget him, right? Now, I've given you an easy one here because, of course, that trinomial and that trinomial are exactly the same, aren't they? So what is the answer? 4x minus 7x plus 2. Everybody with me? Everyone's good? Okay. Now apply what we just did here to here. What do I got to get rid of here? I got to get rid of the 10. So to get rid of the 10, I got to divide by 10, and then I check. Does it work with everything else? Sure. So what do I end up with? X squared plus 8x plus 12. And there's a 10 out in front of it. Now, can I factor that? What do I got to multiply to? What do I got to add to? What is it? X plus 6, x plus 2. Is everybody feeling good? Okay, look at H. Tell me what's different. It's a negative 4. So what do I got to get rid of? A negative and a 4. So what am I going to divide by? Negative 4. Does that work with everything? Negative 4 goes out here. I get t squared. What do I get here, though? I get positive 4t. I'm going to highlight that to remind you that the negative 4 changes the sign. Yes? And what do I get here? Minus 32. Now, is that factorable? If it is, I've got to multiply to negative 32 and add to 4. Can we do it? Since that's negative, it must be plus and minus. And what is it? Eight minus 4. 8 minus 4 is 4. 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. And we're good. Everybody feeling comfy, cozy, kosher, cool. There's a lot of alliteration there. Is everyone okay with that? The alliteration, not the math. I teach math a lot, but I don't do a lot of alliteration. So I need you to all be okay with that as well. If you haven't been paying attention in English class, alliteration is the repeated consonant sound at the beginning of words. Wonderful, wild words. See, I did it again. Everyone good up to H? Everyone good up to H? Okay, look at I and tell me what's different that you don't like. It's backwards. So, first thing I don't like in I, wrong order. That bothers me. What else don't I like? Look at this. Look at the quadratic term. It's a negative. I don't like the negative quadratic. Those two things bother me, don't they? Can we fix it? How do I get rid of negative 1? I divide by negative 1, don't I? And since 1 goes into everything, I'm all right, yeah? So if I divide everything by negative 1, I'm going to get negative 1. What's negative 24 divided by negative 1? 24. Negative 5 divided by negative 1? Positive 5d. Negative d divided by negative 1 is positive d squared, right? Everybody cool with that? Now, will order matter now? Everything's positive, right? So I could rewrite this as negative, because we don't write 1, d squared plus 5d plus 24, correct? Is everyone happy with what I've done there? Have I taken care of the negative that we didn't like? Yep. Have I taken care of the order that we didn't like? Yep. So now, let's see if we can factor it. If it's going to factor, I got to multiply to what? 24 and add to what? 5. Can I do it? No. 1 and 24, no chance. 2 and 12, no chance. 3 and 8, 3 and 8 will make 5, but one of them would have to be what? Any negatives allowed there? No. So I'm done. Now this is a question that messes people up, because people say, you didn't factor that, Mr. Myers. But I did, didn't I? Because I took out a -1. So it was still factored. Just not as long as you may have thought it would have been. Everybody cool? Yeah? Okay. So now we've covered what to do if we have a number in front of the x. Does it have to be an x? No. If we have a coefficient with the quadratic term, we know what to do. We know what to do if it's a negative quadratic. We know what to do if the order's messed up. Now look at J and tell me what you don't like. 2 quadratic terms. What the halibut are you talking about, Mr. Myers? 2 quadratic terms. But you guys are smart kids. When there's one quadratic term, it was x and x, or y and y, or q and q, or p and p, or j and j, right? Well, what does that mean this is going to be? B and B. So instead of having 2 numbers, 4 and 6, you're going to have 4b and 6b, right? But you guys already know that. It's stuff you already know. So if this is going to work, I got to multiply to what? What would I have to multiply to? -20. And what would I have to add to? 19. What is it? -1 and 20. The group that everyone forgets about. -1 what? B. Do I write -1? In my final answer, no. But at this point of the work, would it be a good idea to write -1? -1b plus 20b. And then I can rewrite it properly. V minus b, v plus 20b. Is -1 plus 20 19? Is -1 times 20 -20? Is b times b, b squared? So I'm right. Please understand, once again, looks don't matter. You follow the same rules. So all of you should be able to do K right now, by yourself, yeah? Go. Because J and K are, of course, the same. Multiply to what and add to what? Okay, so what do I got to multiply to? -28. What do I got to add to? 12. What is it?
-2y and 14.
Yes, x minus 2y, x plus 14y. What's the trick here? Remember the y's. Cool? Everybody good? Okay. Look at L and tell me what's weird. What don't you like? What's wrong with L? What's wrong with L? Right there, there, and there. It's a cubed, right? That's no good. And our first term isn't a quadratic term, is it? It's got an extra letter there, right? So how do I get rid of something extra? How have I gotten rid of everything extra so far this unit? Divide. So what do I divide by here? B. Because B is the common factor, isn't it? So B goes outside, and I get a squared minus AB minus 20b squared. Now can you solve it? Because it looks exactly like J and K, doesn't it? I got to multiply to what? Negative 20. And I got to add to what? What's the number that should be there that isn't? Negative 1. What is it? That's negative, so it's plus and minus. What are the factors of 20 that'll get me to 1? 1 and 20 won't do it, will it? 2 and 10? 4 and 5? Yeah. Which one has to be positive to get to a negative? Plus 4 minus 5. What's missing there? My B. Is everybody cool? Yeah? All right. M is the last tricky one. What don't you like about that? It's x to the 4th. What? When it was x squared, we had x and x, right? Why? Because x times x would get me my x squared, right? Well, what must this be then? X squared. X squared and x squared. And then does anything change? Do you think? Of course not. What do I got to multiply to? 50. And what do I got to add to? Negative 15. What is it? Negative 5 and negative 10. Is everybody cool? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, I want to do 2 more ones, 3 more ones, 2 more ones that aren't on your sheet. So you got to write them down because they're leading into the next thing, because I actually believe you guys today. And I'm not going to give you any homework anyway. What if I had this? Do you guys have more on your sheet, or does it end there? You have an N and an O?
And a P.
And a P. You have them on your sheet. Oh, good. Okay. N should be something like x squared. It should be a 0 here. And then this should be some negative 9? Okay. So if we're going to factor that, first of all, would we ever write this? No. We would never write 0x, would we? But I've written here to make a trinomial. If we were going to factor this, I would need to multiply to what? Negative 9 and add to what? What is it? 3 and negative 3. X plus 3, x minus 3. Cool? Cool? So your next one should be exactly the same, except it'll be maybe y squared plus 0y, and then a bigger number, like, okay. So, you should notice something about that and that. What is it? Square root. So what will you do here? Y plus 25 and y minus 25. Everybody cool there? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The letter doesn't matter. I'm going to use a lightning bolt next one. Everybody cool with that one? Yeah? Okay, so then P is going to be lightning bolt squared plus, 8 lightning bolt plus 16. Okay, what's that going to be? All right. X. What's that going to be? What would I multiply to? 16, and what would I add to? 8. X What is it? Plus 4, x plus 4. Which, would we ever write it that way? No, because math guys are lazy. What would we write? X plus 4 squared. Everybody cool? All right, listen up. It is 10:54. I do not wish to be onerous for you. But tomorrow, because it's a short day, we are going to look at page 166 in class and a couple of pages from this booklet. We're not going to do anything new, all right?